In this presentation, we will discuss the methods involved when collecting lent-to-game data on Hummocks. The topics in this video are covered in section 7.1 on page 110 of the 2021 lent-to-game draft protocol. Hummocks are microtopography features that form more easily in finer textured soils. Because of this, it is more likely for hummocks to occur in wetland and riparian areas, since these areas typically contain more finer textured soil and organic matter compared to the soil found in uplands. The mechanics behind the formation of hummocks can be related to several different factors, one being the freeze-thaw dynamics that occur in the soil of northern regions and high-altitude environments. The formation of hummocks may also be caused or exaggerated by ungulate behavior, specifically the degree of soil disturbance and plant use on susceptible soils. The irregularities of the ground surface tend to encourage ungulates to walk in the interspaces between the mounds. The increased traffic within those interspaces become more vulnerable to soil loss and soil compaction, while the mounds become more vulnerable to additional frost heave, dewatering, and erosion. For the purposes of the lent-to-game protocol, data collection on hummocks is intended to characterize the physical structure of hummocks within the plot and to help detect changes due to livestock use, erosion, hydrologic modification, and changes in the biotic community over time. Hummock data can be used to help determine the overall condition of a wetland area. In addition to condition, hummock data can help monitor trends in relation to management practices. Sites with higher counts of hummocks and hummocks with more extreme physical structures can help indicate a higher level of wetland degradation. Hummock data is a contingent method when applying the lent-to-game methods. Similar to core methods, contingent methods are only used where relevant and when they are important for management purposes. Additionally, contingent methods are not always applicable in all monitoring plots. Not every plot that you visit will have hummocks. The data collected on hummocks is intended to characterize the physical structure of the hummocks within the plot. The methods detailed in this presentation record the number, height, length, slope, and vegetated condition of hummocks within the plot. It is important to collect these data only after vegetation data has been collected in order to minimize disturbance along the transect. When following the lent-to-game field methods protocol, a hummock is defined as a surface feature with 10 centimeters or more of microrelief from the top of the feature to the interspace or depression adjacent to the feature that continues for 10 centimeters or more along the transect. For the purposes of this protocol, holes and soil displacement created by a single livestock or ungulate hoofprint, also known as post holes, are not counted as high or low points, even if they are greater than 10 centimeters deep. In this example, you can see the type of ground disturbance pictured on the left is different than the disturbance pictured on the right. The picture on the left has many individual hoofprints, several of which may be deeper than 10 centimeters. However, those features are not considered hummocks and would instead be monitored as soil alteration, which is described in section 8.2 of the protocol. The photo on the right features many individual hummocks. Depending on the height and length along the transect tape, data would be recorded on these features. The height requirements of an individual hummock along the transect is 10 centimeters or more from the top of the hummock to the bottom of the adjacent interspace. This height requirement is applicable to either side of the feature. So a feature with a leading edge height of 8 centimeters and a trailing edge height of 13 centimeters would still be a qualifying hummock, and data would be collected on the feature. Because the height requirement applies to both the leading and trailing edge of a feature, it is important to measure both sides before ruling out any individual feature as non-qualifying. In addition to height, all qualifying features must continue along the transect for a minimum of 10 centimeters. In order to identify if a feature falls under this criteria, it is helpful to look straight down at the transect tape and follow the two-dimensional line created by the tape. It is important to only focus on one side of the tape and to not change sides of the tape during the measurements. Once you have determined if a feature is a qualifying hummock, you will need to gather information about its physical characteristics. The first piece of data that you will collect will be the start and end of the hummock. Looking straight down at the transect tape, use one side of the transect to create a two-dimensional line. Follow that line and record the start and end of the hummock feature in centimeters. Record that information in the appropriate fields within Survey 123 or paper data sheet. If using Survey 123, the form will calculate the total width of the hummock, which in the example pictured here is 62 centimeters. Consider the start and end of a hummock to be where there is a noticeable change in slope from the adjacent ground surface or inner space to the hummock feature. This is more obvious on features with steep slopes and less obvious on features with gentle slopes. The diagram on this slide shows where the start and end of a hummock feature are, which is indicated with the vertical orange lines. After recording the start and end of the hummock feature, record the height of the leading edge of the hummock. If the height is less than 10 centimeters on the leading edge, record the height on the trailing edge of the hummock. To collect height measurements, be sure to use a ruler or other straight object and press firmly down on the top of the hummock to ensure the object is level and creates a line parallel to the ground where the initiation point begins. Using a measuring stick or avalanche probe, measure the vertical distance from the initiation point or the base of the hummock within the adjacent inner space to the top of the hummock. After determining the height of the feature, measure the slope of the leading edge. Place a straight edge or ruler against the leading edge of the hummock, from the base of the hummock to the top of the hummock, in line with the transect tape. Place the compass against the straight edge of the ruler and record the slope. 90 degrees is vertical, so consider undercut sides as greater than 90 degrees, and fill out the 90-degree selection within the form. The example in the bottom center photo depicts when you would record an undercut hummock slope as 90 degrees. Finally, estimate the percent cover of the leading edge of the hummock. All vascular, non-vascular, and entrained thatch should be considered cover. Any loose litter, overhanging thatch, leaves, or overhanging vegetation does not count as cover and should be pushed back from the face of the hummock while determining cover. When estimating cover, you need to delineate an area on the hummock base extending from the initiation point, or the noticeable change in slope, to the shoulder, which is found just below the top of the hummock. Extend that box 10 centimeters on both sides of the transect tape, creating a 20 centimeter wide box. Using a monitoring multi-tool can be especially helpful when delineating your cover estimation box. Record your cover estimates within the given bins on the form. This concludes the Hummock Methods video. For additional guidance on the methods used to collect hummock data following the Lentic AIM protocol, consult Section 7.1 of the Lentic AIM 2021 Draft Field Manual.